So I really want to welcome you guys from Gitcoin community. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of a background on Gitcoin. So Gitcoin is a community for developers to collaborate and monetize their skills while working on open source projects through bounties. So in the past 3 years alone, Gitcoin has developed a marketplace value of over 3,750,000. That's pretty crazy, guys. Like, could you tell us a bit about how the project started and the trajectory and the challenges you guys have faced so far?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to take it, Scott, if that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott. So Scott, myself, Kevin, we were all kind of around the Ethereum scene in late 2017. Scott even earlier than that, and we all kind of met around the ETH Waterloo hackathon. At which point Kevin was hacking on this thing called Gitcoin. I had come to hack on another project in the context being that we have this global worldwide workforce of individuals who can contribute to now a global set of technologies and tools in Web3 that are all open source first, that anyone in the world has the permissionless access to contribute towards and to get paid to do so. And so at that time, Kevin had already launched the V1 of Gitcoin and had seen some contributions flowing through, mostly people that he was working with to build Gitcoin, because Gitcoin was open source, it was built on top of Ethereum, and developers could get involved and get going. So I met him at ETH Waterloo. We kind of kept in touch October 2017 into the winter break. And I joined the team shortly thereafter, where in short order, we got a small grant from the Ethereum Foundation for, let's say, I think it was like 25K. And they basically said, you can use this 25K however you'd like to get developers building on Ethereum stuff. Just kind of let us know and work with the maintainers to figure out what we should put stuff on. And I think that was a big part of the story. That 25K very quickly got developers involved and engaged.
What year was that? That was 2017?
Yeah, the grant we got in early 2018, like January, February.
Okay, and how is your process with that? Because oftentimes, like, projects, the funding is not normally the hardest part, right?
Yeah, I think what became interesting early was that when we had that 25K, it was immediately, there was already a community of developers who was looking to build things. And when we started putting that 25K in different places on the Ethereum community and then saw those things getting picked up, we kind of felt like there was something going on here. So we were backed by Consensus as well. We started putting bounties on MetaMask and Truffle and Infura and a lot of the infrastructure projects at Consensus. And from there, the developer community grew. We now have 30,000 people on our mailing list, and build with all of them as much as we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so with this, what has been really like the most challenging part? Because you guys now have multiple products, right? You have grants, you have bounties, you have kudo, you have so many. And so with that 25K, how did you really decide, okay, this is what we're going to put this to? Because clearly you guys did something right. And what was the most difficult part around that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'll start by saying it's keeping our feet on the ground. We have like all of these different ideas and interesting things that we know can be done in this new open source context, and it's like kind of getting these things to the developers. One thing that Kevin talks about often, he's not on the call, but I'll channel my inner Kevin, is the open source developer lifecycle. So what it looks like generally is when somebody starts contributing to open source, they find projects that they're interested in. They kind of get going, contributing towards projects. And if the projects get big enough, it actually gets trickier to continue going forward with it, because you go from point A, which is like, I'm working on this project, it's fun, some people are giving me props for it on GitHub, to holy shit, the whole world is like looking to me to like do something with this project, and now I have to like execute upon that task. And usually the worst part of it is that you're not getting paid anything along the way, which is like kind of the death knell for some of these open source projects. Is you get all of this attention, but you really can't keep up with it. So the way that we're thinking about it is we want to help people find funding at every step of that funnel. So if you're a developer just contributing to open source projects, there's a new paradigm in Web3 where you should be paid for that work. If you're coming up with project ideas in a hackathon and you want to continue with that, you should be able to like immediately get that out there for funding, to continue working on that if we think it's going to be a valuable thing for the community. And then on an ongoing basis with Gitcoin grants, which I know is something that we'll get to, I'm sure, you're looking at every quarter being eligible for a $150,000 pool of funds that can be used to continue growing your open source project, and a network of people that wants to support you if you so choose to go down the path of venture capital funding or elsewhere. So
yeah, so that kind of touches upon my next question, which was I was seeing that in a month you guys normally have 21,400 roughly users, right? And so how this goes with kind of like what you were saying is how you keep that community engaged and how you've been really able to grow that community. So yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. Yeah. I
So
think just
yeah.
like two thoughts on that is like there are definitely different factions of the community. There are people who are building; those are the developers in the community. There are people who are donating in Gitcoin grants rounds, which means that they might just be putting $5 across projects, but telling people that, hey, these are projects that I care about. There are mentors who like participate in our hackathon and provide guidance or feedback that the 300 hackers every month will get to be a part of. And there are new developers who may not know anything about blockchain, but just come to one of the events and try to get to know what's going on, read some of the materials that we have, and go from there. So our hope is that wherever you are in that process, there's something for you.
Yeah, because I was seeing that you guys, you normally have about 34% of the developers or coders are active on a monthly basis, like in the last 30 days, and that 19% are more active in the last 90 days, right? But seeing it's like that 51% inactive is like, I mean, regardless, it's really a testament to see that you guys have almost 50%, 49% of the community active. And does this go with that kind of like open source challenge that you were talking about? Are there any projects you're seeing that like coders or developers are responding more to, in terms of like, are they responding more to the grant, to the packs, to the bounties, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think over the last, I'd say 3-ish months, and Scott, feel free to chime in here as well if you have anything. But the two things we've seen are the hackathons, where are events that you can learn, you can earn some crypto on some interesting projects in, say, the $500 to $2,500 range. So pretty sizable amounts of money that you can earn in like a 2-week period. The most that we've seen one hacker earn in a hackathon is 6,000 DAI. So it's been higher than that in some cases. But you learn, you meet other developers who are interested in learning, so you get to build relationships, and you can earn like a sizable amount. And so those hackathons are really like a great breeding ground for conversation and continued collaboration after the events. And then there's grants rounds, which has like a completely different active user base. Pretty much every other month we'll do a grants round, last of which had over 1,500 kind of like unique contributors who played some part in the round. And those people might be donating to some of the great projects that have come out of the hackathons or other projects that have been coming up in the Ethereum space.
Really cool.
So those are like kind of the funding side of it, and then like the learning and earning side of it.
That's really, really cool. So yeah.
Regarding online work, that there's the one camp that says, everyone's going to start transitioning to online work, and airline stocks, cruise ship stocks, kind of like WeWork is never going to be back to where it was because the majority of the workforce is going to stay on online work. and the other half are working from home. And the other half is saying that, no, what's really going to happen is people are going to realize just how the infrastructure isn't ready, and how like bad of an experience actually working from home is. That for a lot of people, they think they'd like it, but they actually don't like it. But they're actually going to flock back to the offices. Obviously, the answer is somewhere in between, because even if the technology gets better, still the style of working from home is not what everyone thinks it is. And for a lot of people, it's like being an entrepreneur. It's like you have to be able to manage your time well. Some people just work better in an office. Some people don't have kids. Some people do have kids, so it's kind of harder to manage all that. So, but it should be interesting to see, because I do, like you said, Scott, I think that the tools are going to get better, just because like there's more people using them now, and there's more demand, and there's more. Honestly, it's more people are complaining about it. It's like, hey, this can't stay this way.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where most people are in a situation, maybe not most people, but I think right now maybe like say like 50+% of the economy at large is in a position where like remote work isn't something that they're structured or set up to do. So like that means either like they don't have like the workspaces for it, they don't have like necessarily the right living situation for it. Like they might have like young kids, they might have like pets, they might not have a situation to like manage that like within their household. I think as the tools get better, I think that we'll see more people shift to situations where they're optimized for like that kind of work. And we'll see more people have spaces or have like kind of structure around their life that like supports that. I do think initially people will have a very bad experience as a result of this with remote work. But I think that the result of that is that people will actually have kind of infrastructure in place, mainly in like large offices, like which principally, like as we know, are sort of in the tech sector, SF centric. So seeing more of those folks actually start to realize, oh, we actually got like all the PRs we needed. We had all the work that we needed done remotely this week. I think seeing that sort of stuff will be like one sort of like major piece that moves it forward. And then the other piece will be for those that didn't meet their metrics, people realizing, oh, wait, like actually now I'm used to this. I'm used to working from home, and like I don't have to worry about my health or my family or other things that are going on in the world. And they'll be much more productive as a result of it. And I think be willing to like explore it. So that's like a really rough, rambling explanation of like, I think there's like almost an initial concern and then an uptake once we see people start to move back into their sort of normal habits.
Working from home, that new to you guys, right? Is Gitcoin, do they have an office?
This is my basement. This is like a staircase right above me.
Where are you guys?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, cool.
Scott's stuck again.
Okay, Scott. Where are you?
I think, yeah, I don't know if I'm close, but yeah. I mean, like, right. We're both working from basically home, and that's how we've always been as a company.
Yeah.
We really had an office. I mean, we've had offers to like work out of other offices. I tend to like go down to, I'm in Toronto, so I work out of the Chain Safe office occasionally. And there's other folks in the city who do have their own spaces, which is nice.
Yeah.
We've never had one.
Yeah, like Eric, go ahead.
Okay. No, yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say from like a contributor perspective, Gitcoin's code base, I think there's like 65 people that have contributed to it. So there's like 10 people or so on the core team. But it's nice that like, because the core team is distributed and literally of those 10 people, like only 2 are even in the same city, but they don't work in the same office.
Do you see that, like, okay, so for example, Eric is right now in New Jersey/New York, right, like East Coast, and I'm in Medellin, Colombia. And so if you guys have your team, decentralized, then in those areas where you have teammates there, do you see a larger developer community presence? And if so, like, where are you seeing, more presence, and where are you starting to see more growth? I'm curious if you're seeing anything in Latin America or
Yeah.
Vivek, you can definitely take this. The 2 I want to highlight that I think have been exciting for me were, on the one hand, Lagos has been an amazing hub that we've seen a lot of activity in, and we have a lot of we even have a couple of team members that work from there. And it's been amazing to see what they've been able to produce. The other is actually Bangalore, which is actually where a couple of our team members are from as well. And it's been, yeah, similarly just amazing growth in both communities, and like the sheer amount of, like, I guess, creativity and entrepreneurship in those areas to me is like really inspiring. So that's been really exciting to see.
Yeah, both retweet both of those places. And yeah, we have a team member in Sao Paulo. So there is one team member on the core team in Latin America. I think Argentina also has had some like pretty solid representation in the developer community.
Argentina's pretty sick. The Ethereum community there is pretty big too.
Yeah, yeah. I know Zeppelin's out there, Open Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, Maker is there as well.
Cool.
Yeah, and here in Colombia, like, you know, it's still growing and like pretty diverse, but there is an Ethereum community here, you know, and it's really cool to see kind of like what they're doing and teaching Solidity for kids so that they can make smart gardens. Like, it's pretty cool, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so going off of that, what kind of projects do you see the community inclining towards in terms of like sustainability, social impact, public health? You guys have a public health grant coming up. And I know Emiliano from our Ben Italy team has worked with Scott and all of us together to do some really cool stuff with the Red Cross. And so could you tell me some more about this grant coming up, what you expect to see, and what should an organization and a donor know about it as well?
Go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott's been doing an awesome job on this. I'll just give like a brief intro, which is that Scott kind of like threw this idea out there maybe like 10 days ago when things started getting pretty real in the US. And from that to execution, which Scott can tell you a little bit about, has been crazy to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of this started actually with, I'll give a shout out to Balaji, who has really, I think, been within the US sort of a leader in sort of getting people, getting awareness to this topic. And unfortunately, a lot of folks didn't listen to that. That was really early enough, and we're sort of in a position now where we're trying to catch up. But one of the things we really want to do is show that the crypto community can come together and try and like provide funding for this. I think it's an existential, like, you know, threat to multiple industries. I think it's like in the crypto space, less so. I think there's like more remote work and generally just more kind of comfort with not going out in the crypto space. That said, I mean, I think it's one of those things that we all need to be working towards in order to get back to any sense of normalcy. And you know, whether that's even where we want to go is a discussion as well, like normalcy versus like, can we do better? Is there something more we can do? But yeah, after reading that tweet, like the first sort of like few he put out, I started thinking about this a lot. And then I pitched this idea later on once we had decided on what we were doing for round 5. And now we have about 12 charities, which are not crypto related charities actually at all, in this campaign. And that's been really exciting for me because one, it showcases that we can do something for the broader community. And they're like really going to be able to use this money immediately. They're going to be able to actually, through Giving Block, use this money, convert it directly to USD in their accounts. And it kind of abstracts away from us the complexity of having to go and say, okay, you have all this ETH, you have all this DAI, now go use it to help, you know, create, like, either buy supplies like masks or ventilators or test kits, or to go and like actually get first responders onto the scene. Those are things that like need to be done now, or like 2 weeks ago. So to me, we're really excited to be able to play a very small part of that. We're aiming we have 100K in matching funds in total. And then we're hoping that the community will rally together to, you know, give far more than that in total. But ultimately, this is an effort that is beyond the crypto sphere.
That's awesome. First of all, I really appreciate you taking the initiative on that. You know, now I think we're seeing across the board the community step up and do something, and leaders. And so it's really cool to see, first of all, you, Scott, and Gitcoin getting together on this. what kind of companies are you guys working with on this? Is there any companies you're partnering with? And in terms of, you were mentioning now people are able to convert it directly to USD. And so that's a huge thing, right? That's huge, because I don't know that. Did you do that before with the grants?
We actually are still in the process of figuring out how to implement that for like everyone. We don't want it to just be something we do for the health round, but fortunately we were able to work with Alex and the Giving Block team to do this in short order. They were really great at getting back to us within like a week. We had 5 or 6 projects on the platform that were strictly from Alex taking the time to go and reach out to them and say, hey, I know that like we've typically only done this work in BTC. Is there a way to like include ETH payments or DAI payments or other ERC20 token payments? And that to me is like a really good sign that we can bring multiple parts of the crypto community together. In terms of specific projects that are involved, we have like a wide variety of nonprofits in the first category, I would say. So like Red Cross being one of them through Ben Italy, of course. Really appreciate the connection there. We have Save the Children, which is a broader nonprofit. Yeah, we can show the sort of
just in case.
Yeah. And a lot of these are organizations that already had experience doing on the ground response, and now are really taking the tools and the resources that they have available to like more broadly, or I guess like more specifically tackle this issue. So a lot of them have exactly what they need. They just like over time, and I think they're doing good work already, but they'll continuously need more funding as this effort ramps up, because I think a lot of them weren't prepared for how quickly they would need to put everything in place. Yeah, Needs List is another great one, which helps coordinate a variety of supplies between those who have them and those who need them. It acts sort of as a almost supply chain, which is kind of useful in this context right now. Not sure how many people are familiar in this call with like the concept of like mutual aid, but like mutual aid is basically what Needs List is trying to facilitate. Like if someone needs masks, trying to get those masks to the right place. If there's someone that needs test kits, or if there's a region that needs specific hospital supplies, making sure those are in the right place. And then we have a lot of other initiatives which are not even nonprofits on this platform right now, which are kind of ad hoc initiatives by community members. So there is actually one which is specifically for masks and test kits, which is being run by a few folks in the Ethereum community. They effectively have figured out a way to try to ramp up the supply of those within really like globally, but mostly these folks are based in Asia. And then we have things like the DIY ventilators project, which is something that we're putting up shortly. The goal there is really a lot of these hospitals have kind of older ventilators, or have ventilators that can't necessarily, this is a bit like of a tangent, but they have ventilators that can't necessarily be repaired very easily because of like restriction. I think it's largely IP related issues. And so this DIY ventilator initiative is like basically people saying, well, let's just make our own. Like we have the tools and the ability to do that. And there's a few of these happening globally right now, which are really exciting to see.
That's awesome.
And then, yeah, the last category would just be like data visualization, tracking who is using what supplies, and also tracking what the number of cases is across different regions, so that people can stay aware and stay safe, hopefully. And that's, yeah, I'll stop there because I can just talk about this for too long.
Yeah, I mean, it also seems like this is a great way to like start kind of bringing on more organizations and even donors that are not originally in the crypto space, right? So it's really cool to see kind of how this initiative might lead to some really cool things down the road. Because for example, with Ben, like, I mean, we've really enjoyed the grants program. It's been really cool to kind of experience and see the different changes that the grants program has gone through in terms of the different matching that you guys have done. And you know, we've often, even Eric does a great job. Ionic, he takes he really is the one that's done all of it for the most part, working with those who aren't already in the crypto community and saying, hey, there's this great grant, we're doing this for Blockchain Education Network, like, let me set you up with a wallet, let me teach you how to do this. And so do you see kind of more of a push of maybe educational resources for others that aren't already in the crypto space to be able to donate and teach them how to do so?
Yeah, you've definitely hit on it for this, because this is the first round that we don't have Ethereum related projects. We don't have anything that has to do with Web3 at all. It's all about public health. And so the first thing we're looking at, we don't know if we'll get it in short order, would be like a Stripe integration, so that you could make your donations with credit cards, just to make it easy. Although, like, just by being on the site, we think it's like, you know, you'll get to see a lot of MetaMask and a lot of Web3 related things. The second thing that's associated is to make a donation, we're giving some voucher funding coupons, which effectively allow you to say, you know, if you had $5 that we will Gitcoin put up, where would you put that money? And so you still have to create a Gitcoin profile, which requires you to sign in with GitHub and also have a MetaMask account. But if you do those two things, we will just give you a voucher funding coupon. You don't have to get ETH. We will like make sure that you have that, so that you can go from there. But more education everywhere is like kind of the name of the game to us.
Yeah, that would be really cool. We've spoken a couple of times about that, Scott and Ben, and I think that there's definitely something really cool to do there. I want to also ask, because I think that sometimes the community might wonder, like, the changes between the grant matching between time of like 2x, or based on like how many people, you know, you guys have done a couple different strategies. And so how did you land on those? What has been most effective? What has been the feedback from the community? And, you know, with these working with public health organizations, what do you think will work best there?
Yeah, and when you say, like, do you mean mostly from a marketing perspective, from like how do we like actually get this to the right people? And like,
yeah, like a mix of the two, right? Because like even from from an organization perspective, right? From like someone on the point, it's like, for example, I think the first one we went on was like 2x matching, and then there was another one that it was even more. But you know, there were people who were giving like $20, so you'd think that like you'd see 40, but instead, you know, that kind of difference.
Right. Yeah. So actually, this is an interesting point. Like, this is more to the mechanism, which I can talk about a bit. So the gist of it is, there's a paper that Vitalik, Glenn, and Zoe put together called, Vivek, maybe you have this, liberal radicalism, and then something, which
a credibly neutral way to fund public goods.
Yes, there we go. I'm glad. Wow, that's good memory. And we saw that come out last, like, late, maybe even
April, May.
Yeah,
about a year ago. About a year ago.
And we thought it was really interesting, and we wanted to see how we could apply that to these sorts of public good challenges that were sort of like were a major part of our ethos and our mission with like growing open source in the first place. So we kind of decided to implement it as written in the paper, which is we basically would take the square of the sum of the square roots of contributions. So if two people donated $4 each, the matching amount would be square root of 4 plus square root of 4 squared, 16. And then similarly, if 8 people donated $1 each, the matching amount would be 64. And that's like a very, this is, again, Vivek is on top of.
Scott, I think it's funny because like, I think the math scared me a lot at the beginning, but the way that like basically.
Exactly. Like, the way to think about this is really that, like, even if the dollar value is the same, the number of contributors, if it increases, will actually result in more total matching funds being given to that project. So if 8 people donate in total $275, or if 2 people donate in total $275, there'll be a vastly different matching amount. And that's intentional because we want it to be something that is, any matching fund should be given on the basis of the signal provided and like how sort of people feel about these projects and how the community is sort of voted. Ultimately, that's the distinction between this and like a standard sort of matching campaign, which is kind of weighs the dollar amount and the number of contributors equally. And the issue with that is, of course, you run into problems of anyone being able to effectively really spend just excessive amounts of money in order to get their voice heard. Ultimately, this makes it more democratic while still allowing people to vote in some way with their funding. We did this for the first 2 rounds, if I remember correctly. And then we started working on implementing Vitalik's pairwise version of this model, which in short really just like kind of allows you to reduce the, again, like by another factor, the extent to which larger donations impact the total matching pools, the way that it was distributed. And the goal of all of this really is just to find like an optimal way to make sure that people's signal is heard without giving too much outsized voting power or kind of like signal to those that have like larger amounts of money in the space. So yeah, this, and then Vitalik's post here is great. Vivek, if you want to dive into it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the way that I would think about it is like every dollar matters in this case, and the way that the matching works truly proves this, in that like you making a $1 donation versus a $2 donation versus a $3 donation is not kind of like what makes the difference. It's the 0 to 1 is the most important thing. So as long as you're making a $1 donation towards something, you are using your voice, you're effectively voting with your dollar, and from 1 to 100 doesn't matter to us nearly as much as 0 to 1, because you're putting out that this project that matters enough for you to frankly just come to our website, spend the time to click the buttons and like tell us that it matters.
That's really cool, because you often hear nonprofits, organizations say, $1 makes a difference. And I really think like, and forever I've heard this, right? But like I haven't necessarily seen this in another place where $1 really just $1 makes a difference, and it will make an exponential difference, not just $1 worth of a difference.
Right, right.
And so I kind of want to tell everyone that's watching that feel free to, if you have any questions, to put it on the messages, and we'll try to get to them. We don't have much time left, but I do also want to ask, you mentioned that, earlier when we were talking about public health, you mentioned that we know that Gitcoin's like really for organizations, right? And you mentioned that there's some people that aren't organizations, but that have created, for example, the mask and test kits. Can someone who wants to make a difference or is in the public health industry, right, and wants to do something, maybe not get masks or something like that, but are building a project, if it's not a nonprofit, can they still be a part of Gitcoin? Can they still participate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, we don't want any restrictions on who can be part of this. Anyone who has a project, and a lot of open source projects are not by default structured that way. Like they just don't have the resources to do it. They're busy writing the code, and frankly, just like they're already understaffed as it is. So we don't want to force those things on them.
Right. The thing that we basically anchor on is like, is this a public good? Is like, and there, like that from like an economic sense means that like the basically the results of whatever is being done, whether it's delivering masks or what else, is not going to be privatized to like a certain small group of people. It is for the general public. That's like kind of the core baseline, and if you meet that criteria, you're welcome on the Gitcoin site. For public health specifically, this 100K round, we've been really active ourselves, trying to just get projects in, and we've been really mindful to not include so many that that the dollar amounts that go to each individual project is low. We want the projects that are posted to get like a sizable amount so that they can do something with it quickly. So we have been mindful there, but if you have a project, please do let us know.
That's awesome. Well, guys, as you know, we're moving towards, if no one else has any questions, I think we've covered a lot, and it's been really awesome to kind of like jump between these different topics. Especially, I've definitely learned a lot from this. So thank you so much, Scott, and Vivek, right? Or
Vivek, yeah, thank you.
Oh, man.
Yes, you did it. No, it's fine. Thank you.
But also I want to kind of like open the floor for you guys to, you know, if there's anything else you want to share. You know, we have a large community of professors and students. And so if you have anything you kind of want to say to those guys, please feel free.
I'll start maybe just the key thing that I want to hit home, which you may have gathered from how much I talked about it, would be that we're starting our public health round along with a tech round, a media round on March 23rd, which is Monday. And we will be running that for 2 weeks. So anyone who wants to get involved, we would love to have you either promote this to your communities, or if you feel so inclined, to vote with your dollar, as we talked about.
Yeah, plus one to that. The only other thing I'd add to any students who are remote living for a little bit is that we have hackathons that we're running at least one a month. At this point, many more than one a month because of how things have been with COVID. There's one starting next week, I think, or the week after, on some cross-chain stuff. If you're interested in blockchain, there will be a coronavirus-related response hackathon. We have one running right now. These are places where you can meet other people, and learn new skills if you're interested. So I'd love to have you along the way.
And one more question, you know, I think that oftentimes in the blockchain community, we have so many gifted developers and so many great people building, but often business or others that might not be developers get discouraged from participating in a hackathon, or maybe being a part. They might be, you know, nervous to do so. So is there a way that someone who, I know you guys specifically did, part of the Gitcoin is joining the community together, from hackers to others. So could you kind of share, if you're not a developer, the opportunities are there for you?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, every hackathon, there's projects that range from design related, code related, content related, marketing related, and open source has kind of traditionally been this world that comes from software, because you had all these projects that were open source first, like Linux and Red Hat. But at this point, Ethereum is much more than just software. There's so much more going on. There's so much more that needs to be built. During Funding the Future, for example, if I go to the prize page, I know that Ethereum Classic is one of our sponsors, and they have a design competition, as well as some like coding related tasks that they have up here. Kickback, last hackathon, also did the same. So you can learn from people in all of those areas as well. There will be mentors and workshops that are not just code related. So, yeah.
That's really cool. And I think our community is going to be really happy to hear that too. We will be sharing this across all of on our website, putting it on the curriculum, as well as on our blog that I mentioned to you guys. And I want to quickly share my screen and show you all, so that those who can make it to the VR session and hang out and maybe get to talk one-on-one for a few minutes. I know these guys don't have a lot of time, but I'll share it very quickly so that you guys can see what it would look like. So here we have Altspace VR. Truth be told, Eric and I had my first Altspace VR experience a couple days ago. Eric taught me, so now I'll teach you guys. So basically, you want to go to sign up first. You can do it if you don't have an Oculus. You can do it straight from your computer. And then you're going to create your account. And you're going to go, after you've created your account, you're going to go to Get Altspace VR. once you're here, if you have an Oculus where you know where to click, but if you are only on a computer, you go to 2D mode, and it will prompt you. I'm on Microsoft, so it prompted me to go to the Microsoft store and download it from there. I already have it downloaded, but if you're on Apple, I think it will take you to the Apple store, and then you want to launch it and sign in, and we'll put the link for the VR hangout on our Twitter and also on the chat. And hope to see you guys there. I'm gonna close it because sometimes it makes my computer a little slower. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much, Scott and Vivek. I don't know.
Yep.
For jumping on the call with us and sharing with us all the great work that you guys are doing. And thank you so much also for what you've done for the community. There's been so many projects and so many people that have benefited from your work, and it's truly really inspiring, and I'm really excited to see what else comes.
Thank you guys for having us.